Welcome in everyone who's waiting to get started. We'll give it a few seconds. Let Facebook and YouTube let everybody know we're having a show.
I'm gonna try to share.
Okay. We're having a show. It sounded like me.
It was you.
It sounded like it. All right, Red's down 5-0. Let's go. Jeez, Pete. All right. See, we got some people in. Welcome to the chat. John Forrester's here. What's going on, Johnny boy? Hopefully you're having a wonderful night. And everybody else that's jumped in, make sure you jump in, be part of the conversation, be part of the chat. Just rocking a duo tonight. We got the Kyle and Kyle fan club here. We are missing our third wheel, but the show will go on. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get this party started. Welcome in. My name is Ryan Peters. I'm joined with my co-host, Travis Sputt, on this beautiful, rainy, never see the sunshine, but maybe once every 13 days week in Southern Indiana. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you have been able to make it to the point to where we are in NASCAR, that after a Martinsville race, we cannot wait for Texas. Travis, what the hell is going on in the NASCAR world?
I never thought in a million years I would say that I can't wait for Texas to happen, but whoa, that's it's changed a little bit. And I think, you hear the drivers, you hear some people say like they are over it. I think NASCAR's kind of pooping down their pants right now because they're like, oh crap, like this didn't do anything for us. None of this package, no nothing. So, I think NASCAR's crapping down their pants right now. They noticed that all the work they did with everything else. I think we are going to see either an absolute random tire or we're going to see some horsepower added.
So I did the quick rant because there was no reason to take your guys' time. And it was just, I sit there, watched it for 3 hours. You watched it for 3+ hours. There was no point in sitting here, getting the three of us on here and just complaining about how terrible it was. But a few days have passed now. Everybody knows my perspective on it. What are your overall thoughts? I know you're a Hendrick boy, so listening to the broadcast was probably great since that's the only thing they did and would talk about because you couldn't talk about not passing. But there's two things that come to mind for this race that I'll never forget. 180 laps on left side tires while maintaining a top 5 the entire time. And being stuck behind Austin Dillon for 50 laps because you can't pass them. Those are the two things that I'll never forget about this race. But what were your quick overall takeaways of what it is in short track package racing and Martinsville in general?
I think you just look at the beginning of the race, the first 80-something laps of Larson. When the rubber wasn't laid down fully, he was able to lap like 10 or 11 cars. When that rubber got laid down,
he's not even here, Zach. He's gone. He's on iRacing. He hasn't slept for like 9 days, so he said he called in sick.
He's got a 5 o'clock shadow. But you look at that, but you saw that rubber laid down. As soon as that rubber started laying down, no passing, done, Zippo. And that's what really confused me was they were like, oh, all this rubber's getting laid down. Like, that's what we need. Like, it was can't believe that we laid all this rubber down. I'll be honest with you. I thought 2 years ago when Byron won it 2 years ago was a better show than what we saw there. I mean, it was just, he really, you think about it, Byron was probably about the only one that maybe made some passes. I would say maybe Hamlin too. but oh my God, like it was just, you know, it was like you got out here to the interstate on 74 and just bumper to bumper on the Eclipse Day. I mean, it's all it was.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's sad to see because you think about NASCAR pre next gen, like, oh, maybe add some more road courses. Oh, add some more short tracks. Like that's the best racing. That's better than any of the 1.5 mile stuff. And now we're like, in my mind, I'm going, wow. Like think about if we had to schedule like we had in like 2014, 2015 with only 2 road courses. Holy crap, we would see some, you know, some cool stuff. You know, yeah, we'd have some short tracks in there, but we would see some cool stuff.
I could go back to telling people that Kyle Busch has won at every single track on the schedule, but I can't do cool things like that anymore. And that might just be a distant memory moving forward.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
but what's crazy, Travis, is like, you know, you typically see some difference in tires, but you mentioned the rubber being laid down. It was only being laid down by the right side. There was just usually it's a black, like a bottom groove pulls in. It was a black line from just the right side tires because the left side tires, I think Barney Rubble may have used it. I can't confirm, but it was like rolling on a rock. And it just, I don't know. I mean, I had all I could say. Actually, it was just about this long in this show without saying curse words. And I don't want to go back to saying curse words, but the one thing that's got to change, and I hope Elton Sawyer and all those who are around, Bristol proved you don't have to have horsepower. You can have a tire. And if you have a tire, and it doesn't have to be 30 or 40 laps, 60, I think 60 laps in, all of us would not be able to wait. If you made 2 tires to where, you know, and then again, just spitballing, but like the Formula 1 style, you have to choose one or the other. You get to race on the hard, solid rock for a little bit if you want to, but at some point you have to have a tire that fades away, that you have to race both. I don't know what the overall choice will be for NASCAR. I do know this. It'll be the most cost-effective thing because that seems like the only thing they care about is saving money. But outside of that, you're going to be losing a lot of money when people quit going to Richmond and Martinsville. And those used to be tickets that you couldn't miss. And I think, Travis, we luckily got to see a chaotic accident. And it could be the best thing that happened is that we got to see that chaotic accident in Bristol. Because if they didn't have that, there would be no solution outside of hypothesis. We have seen what can happen by the test that was Bristol. But again, it was an accident. It was a happy accident. So I'm not sure. But this show will not be all about Martinsville because it'd be very depressing, and it's already rained, like I said, for 13 straight days. There are animals lining up 2 by 2 here in southern Indiana. It's very scary. But we're going to go ahead and get into the main part of the show. You probably already saw the thumbnail, and it's a conversation that I think can lead us probably for a pretty good, interesting part. And I think you guys can chime in, tune in, whatever it is you want to do, and be part of this conversation. I'm sitting here thinking, we are now going into year 3, and so far this year, there has been one driver that does not race for Joe Gibbs or for Rick Hendrick that has won a race. And it was Daniel Suarez on a super speedway style race that was separated by like the second smallest margin of all time. So I'm sitting here and I listen to all kinds of stuff, and I try to put it together and come to a thought process. And we have a car that they want everybody to be the same. Okay. That's first and foremost. They now share data to where everybody can see what everybody's doing, which doesn't make sense to me, but nonetheless, essentially what happens is whoever drives the best, they try to copy that driving style because they have the analytics to do so. They have a car that has no innovation. You can't do anything to it. So we're getting Martinsville. We're getting these other tracks to where they're literally driving the same laps over and over again. So what is the difference? What can be done to win races? And I think you're starting to see that by the teams that have been doing it the longest, and that's hiring the best employees. Where does that make the most? Well, right now, William Byron has the best pit crew in all of NASCAR. He has won races because of his pit crew. Denny Hamlin has had the same pit crew now for a couple of years. He's won races because of his pit crew. Okay, well, what if the pit crew is not good? Then what does it come to next? Then it comes down to a Cliff Daniels, a Rudy Fugle, Chris Gabehart. The best crew chiefs are on the top two teams. So I'm going to ask you this question. I'm drawing this conclusion, Travis, that by making everything the same, the one thing that can be different, the top has already dominated and I think has a chokehold on. Do you think parity can still exist? Am I over exaggerating? Or do you think we're going to get to the point where maybe now more than ever, Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick have cornered the market and it's just going to be those two fighting it out the entire year?
Yeah, I mean, the cream always what is it? The cream always rises to the top, and that's in everything. We look at who has been the most sustainable over all these years. You can say Hendrick, most wins of all time. You could see Joe Gibbs, no matter what car they get into, they're really quick. You look like an RCR, really dominant in the early years with like Dale Earnhardt, but they weren't very sustainable. They kind of dropped off. Look at, I don't know. You could look at, I'm trying to think of some other teams here. I used to always think about the best teams are always going to find a way.
Penske always rises to the last 10 races of the year.
And that's what I was going to say. The only difference I was going to say is the same team has won the championship at the end of the year. Penske's won both with Logano and Blaney. So I think you just look at the adjustments. The thing that's going on for Hendrick right now is, like you said, smart people. They got the same car. They can do a lot of these things, right? They have a lot of the notes. There's a lot of same tire compounds. So they're taking some of the notes that worked and they're able to fill in. That's why they're quick. I look at Joe Gibbs. They got a lot of really good drivers. They got a lot of smart people. They got probably more employees. They hit something pretty early in the Toyota body aerodynamic wise, and they're running with it. I think Ford's a little behind, like we say. It kind of goes along with, I think they said that, they found a little bit of North Wilkesboro a little bit, but, I see them, but it's like we go back to, I don't know, no matter what you do, no matter what parity you make or how much you try to get everyone the same, it just will never be that way. And I think NASCAR wants that so bad, but I don't know. I look at that, and this is, like you said, a different way. NASCAR fans have always said, give us all the same cars and let the drivers race and blah, 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 blah. And now we sit here and complain like, oh my God, like these guys can't let them, cheat their way around or find different loopholes and things like that. Like, that's no fun. We talk about that all the time. NASCAR fans are always hypocritical, but I don't know. Like, I think you always just look at the cream always rises to the top when it matters. Usually the teams that do well at the beginning of the season they usually fade towards the end, right? So,
Martin Truex most certainly faded last year.
Yeah. What do you do? It was, I think, Bristol was his first top 5 for like 20 some races. And we were like, God, he was a favorite heading into the, to the playoffs and stuff. So, I don't know. I just,
let me, and there's a couple ways we can go with this conversation. So first off, you mentioned not being able to change things. To me, when you have the same car, and I understand that because you're right. Hypothetically, NASCAR fans have always said, if you give them the same car, we'll see what driver can do what. But Travis, we're taking the driver out of the car more now than ever. Mm-hmm. There's no practice. There's no qualifying. There's no adjustments that you can make. I'll never forget when Kyle Busch got black flagged for having tape on his car. And I was like, oh, you can't do that? You can't You can't make adjustments in practice. So really, it's not drivers making the car better or worse. It's a computer simulator that they're then unloading and then saying either you hit it in the simulator or you didn't, because you have like maybe 20 laps in a 20-minute session to throw a Hail Mary at it. And if you're off, you're freaking off. And it just seems like only the same groups are hitting that. And then on top of it, once one of them hit at a Hendrick, at a Joe Gibbs, they have the ability, the drivers capable of running the same exact driving style that it doesn't hurt them. Outside of Chase Elliott, he struggled. Alex Bowman struggles a little bit, but I think talent-wise, he's the worst, but he's actually doing much better this year compared to what we saw last year. Joe Gibbs Racing, they got 3 guys that can really do it, and it won't be long before Ty Gibbs is probably right in the middle, or if not rising to the top of that. It seems like, again, what NASCAR said is they want drivers to be a part of it, but then they also took the driver out of the seat. I mean, is that fair or no?
Yeah, and I think you look at it this way. You talked about sim time. Let's think about what Joe Gibbs is the Toyota and what is Night Honey. What Joe Gibbs is the Toyota and what Hendrick is the Chevy. They're their top tier people, right? So they're going to get, quote unquote, probably more time in the sim and probably get some extra benefits from those manufacturers, right?
But isn't that a hypocritical thing to say too? Like this tier system, we want everything to be the same.
I know,
but then at the same time, it's like, but we're going to give Hendrick and Penske and Joe Gibbs more resources than anybody else. Well, then it's not the same.
I get it, and that's what we go down to is, it's like motors, we can go like a bunch of different ways. I think that's why the short tracks are so short, and when the cars are all the same, it's so hard to just get them away from each other, right? They're just all the same, everything. I think of dirt racing. We have these crate late models, right? Crate late models, the same people, the same 5 to 7 people up front run better than everybody else because they got the newer stuff. They got probably a little bit more funding and stuff, and you still have the same, 8 to 10 that kind of run in the back because they don't have the same, right? I just, part of me misses. I don't know. It's so hard. It's hard because in my mind as a race car driver, I'm like, I want the exact same thing because I think I can outrace anybody that has the same equipment as me.
Right.
But what's wrong with that is when you get to a short track like we get to, there's not much error than you would make like at a mile and a half. Like they talk about all the time, they can downshift and fix that error they made or whatever. So the errors are gone away. We're on a mile and a half and things like that. You can do a lot more, mistakes and things like that, which creates passing.
Well, I think you actually you just brought a thought to myself too. What may be the ultimate equalizer in putting it back in the driver's hands is making a car that's hard to drive. This car's not hard to drive. If all of the car tomorrows were equal, maybe we would see a big difference, because you're talking about things that are very, very difficult to drive, almost 1,000 horsepower and things like that. But when we're talking about the next gen car, I'm glad you brought that up. iRacing is the most closest simulator that we have that's not tens of thousands of dollars inside of Hendrick, Joe Gibbs, and everybody else's, workshops. When you get in one of those cars, and I tell you this as somebody that's drove generationally different cars, and this is the only way I know how to apply it because I don't own a NASCAR. It is by far the easiest thing to drive. You drive the Gen 4 cars, Travis, and all the time you talk about like the biggest thing we talk about the most is tire wear. Nobody talks about that in NASCAR today. because you don't have to worry about it because everybody just drives their balls off. And then whenever you pit for gas, you don't ever pit for tire. All these things, all these different types of things, the racing method that you're talking, the racecraft, Travis, this car has been taken away from that. It's taken away from the driver to say, no, everybody drive the same. And you mentioned the only place that we don't do that anymore is 1.5 miles because you can drive different styles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can have a Kyle Larson run to the top. You can have a Kevin Harvick run to the bottom. It seems like because we're putting them in this box that we're only going to have the teams that have already been there that caught up with it now. We're in year 3. But at the same time, where's the innovation come from for the other drivers? You know, like we used to have drivers on road courses, road course warriors. Now it looks like we're getting more short track stuff on the bottom series, but I don't know how RCR catches up. like I don't know what they can do. They're put in a corner and saying, you don't have the best crew chiefs. You don't have the best pit crew. Good luck. Because once Hendrick and Gibbs have it, to me, you're screwed.
Yeah, I think you look at it this way too. I give RCR props when the car came out in 2022, which they technically built the car. You know, they're the one that started all this stuff. And I thought they were ahead of the game, right? I thought they were a little ahead of the Hendricks and the Joe Gibbs and stuff like that. You know, Tyler Reddick, if you don't take some of the crashes you got out or stuff like that, I thought they were pretty quick for the most part. But it's like they were here and then they've just done this where everyone else has kind of gone, they've continued just doing this, where they've just done this, right? And I think you look at Front Row. That's a team that's like, holy crap, like they got this figured out too. Where have they done? Todd Gilliland's always in the top 10, but doesn't finish there. He's like this. I mean, he's like this, and at the end of the race, he's this.
Right.
But, you know, I don't know. I think, it's something that it's always going to happen. Those 8 seats between Gibbs and Hendrick are always going to be the ones you want to fill. That's the best chance you're going to have it winning. There's going to be some days that other teams just hit it. I'd look at Eric Jones at Phoenix was solid, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the only time he's ran solid all year. Besides, he got put in a wall there towards the end. You know, whereas Austin Dillon been solid at nowhere, right? Look at.
I thought that was a trick question. I'm sorry.
Look at like Michael McDowell. Besides him qualifying on the pole at the 500, I haven't really heard a lot about Michael McDowell.
No.
I've heard more about Todd Gilliland than I've heard of Michael McDowell.
Right. No, you're right. I agree.
Spire, like, where's all their money? They've put all this money into it. It kind of shows you right there, no matter how much money you have, it might not be able to produce what you think it's going to produce, right? They put $80 million into this sport last year at the end of the year while we were at Talladega, and look at it. What has it done? The truck program's got better.
I was going to say the lower series where you can do more manipulation has done much better.
Yeah, the truck program
but the Cup has been there's no difference outside the names that drive in those cars besides Corey LaJoie. I mean, Zane Smith's honestly been a dumpster fire. He has been Noah Gragson of last year.
Who?
Zane Smith.
Yeah.
He's been really, 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 really bad.
The Carson Hurst, I think, been the best one out of that team. Most notable. I don't know about finishes, but it's like I said, I mean, there's still the cream always rises to the top, no matter what happens. But like you said, I think at the same time, good teams find ways to win. Good teams find speed.
And speed right now is pit road.
Yeah, it's like, and you said Byron. Larson's got a good pit crew, but look at your boy Busch. Terrible pit crew. Awful. Horrendous.
Yep.
Right? You look at Christopher Bell last year. Not a very good pit crew. Lost some races off pit road. Look at
Bubba Wallace has traditionally had a terrible pit crew, and he's been running better.
2311. They're not very good on pit road either. So it's just one of those things where the short tracks are going to be the issue. There's too much braking and too little power for road courses where there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
the only way you make a difference, and it showed you in the Chicago Street Course last year, was that SVG had experience doing that stuff, and he walked the dog on everybody.
Yeah.
He's like, this is easy, but you got him on a track where everyone's been there before, and he didn't walk the dog. He wasn't behind.
Well, and the weather situation, which nobody in NASCAR has drove through as well. I mean, nobody drove through rain. Noah Gragson most certainly didn't. So
no, he drove into tire barriers. But
my guy drove into him too. So
I just look at NASCAR is sitting there going, what? I want to say NASCAR is saying in the back of their head, like, we're going to hold strong here and not listen to the drivers. We're going to hold strong and not listen to the drivers. We've gone this far. But parity is going to be a thing that we're going to see from here on out. I don't think we'll ever see another car that some of these people can shape. Some of the worst speed. I see someone on Facebook post all the time how they used to work in NASCAR. And they always post back in the day when you can make speed with just a plate of steel and stuff like that. So everything has to do with, like you said, strategy and things like that. So,
well, let me ask you this. Say it comes down to Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick. They just dominate. And the good thing about that is it won't be like Formula One. There literally could be three guys. I think three guys each given week on each team could win. Nobody would be surprised if it was Kyle Larson, William Byron, and the way Chase Elliott's been running the last few weeks. He looks like he's found his speed again, and he's talked about with Dale Jr. He's had to change his racing style. I think we've seen some success with that. And on the other side, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell could also win every single week. It would not be a shock to me if any of those six drivers won. But if it's only those six drivers, is that a good product for NASCAR fans as a whole? Do you think that would set NASCAR back, or do you think that they could take advantage of that and market it appropriately?
I think you just look back at 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I think you see the same stuff, right? You saw the same 5 to 8 drivers win every week. Yeah. Right. You knew the 5 or 8, you knew some people sneak into a top 10, you knew some would sneak into a top 5. But think about back in the day, you had Roush, you had maybe one Joe Gibbs car, maybe.
Yep.
And then you had the Hendrick drivers.
Yep.
Right. And I look back
at the very
here and there.
Or I'm sorry, RCR with Dale Earnhardt.
But you look at, I think of like 2007, right? I go look at who won all the races. Hendrick, you had maybe a couple from Roush.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Gibbs maybe won a couple with Hamlin and maybe some other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Who else won? Right. I don't know. I'd have to really think about 07. You had RCR one race because they won the 500 that year.
It literally was Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, sometimes Dale Earnhardt, Carl Edwards, and Tony Stewart.
Earnhardt didn't even win. Earnhardt didn't even win that year. He blew 10 motors that year because he left for Hendricks the next year. But Carl Edwards.
Oh, okay. Won. So I'm a year early.
Yeah. So 07 was the year that it was rough. He blew so many motors. But you look at, like you said, who were all the ones. That was the first year Toyota came in.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I mean, I think NASCAR, 2022 was the only 2022. It was holy crap, there's 20 teams that can win this because everything was the same, right? What do we have? 16 different winners in 22. So it's oh crap, here we are because Martin Truex missed the playoffs. So we're okay, any driver can win this. Last year, what do we have? 14 different winners, 15 different winners. So we went down. I think this year we're only going to have 9 or 10 winners.
Yeah.
Right. You had the Suarez, who's the oddball out. You have some of these others. So I think we're going to still go back to the way NASCAR always is, where the same 7 to 10 guys are going to win. I think Ross is going to get a win again this year. He's just going to be someone that's going to get a random win. I wouldn't be shocked. 2311 doesn't even have a win yet, right? Bubba's ran good. I think he's going to probably get a win at some point. we'll have Reddit get a win at random. But I think it goes back to the old NASCAR where just random, like Ricky Craven randomly won a couple times. You had,
most famously against Kurt Busch.
Yeah, and I think you look at, I don't know, you just look at NASCAR in a whole. It's always the same way. You always have the same 4 to 8 probably 5 to 8 drivers that are almost guaranteed to win every week.
Yeah.
And then every now and then you have a rando in there, like Ricky Craven or a Jamie McMurray
Paul
or
Menard. Or not Paul Menard, I'm sorry, Marcus Ambrose.
Or Paul, Paul Menard won the Brickyard that year when in
Chris Buescher wins a rain short in Pocono. I mean, there's just random things that can happen.
Yeah, so I think you're gonna have those, but it's NASCAR's always gonna go back to the same NASCAR where even though you get the cars the same, the cream rises to the top. I don't know how many times I've said that, but if we had an over-under count, it's probably 7 or 8. But it's just the way how NASCAR is.
Well, so a lot of people talked about this, and I'm one of those people. I watched WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday. I watched them actually Sunday and Monday, but I was engrossed with the storyline, and I've been preaching for years that the worst people to captivate an audience are baseball and NASCAR. They do such a terrible, terrible job. And what's funny, and Dale Earnhardt actually talked about this on the Dale Jr. Download, because he said he got brought back in. When you create characters, when you create rivalries, when you create Caitlin Clarks, they sell. People watch. NASCAR is missing an opportunity to create personas. And the biggest heel that they have right now is Denny Hamlin. And there's no way that in my creative mind, NASCAR couldn't make this like a heel hero storyline between Hendrick and Joe Gibbs. Hendrick will always be the ones people like. They got the most popular driver. They got the most talented driver in Kyle Larson. They have the best driver right now. I honestly think William Byron's the best driver right now. He's won on a short track, a super speedway, and a road course. It's not like he hasn't had a thing unchecked.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, you have Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs. People don't like them. They don't like them. They're the loudest ones booed. You could create that rivalry today. And it's people like your boy Jeff and Dale Earnhardt who saw the exact same thing. He said, I don't care if we actually do like each other. We have to make it a rivalry, because rivalry, it's that emotional tie-in that makes sports so great. Now, the Red Sox Yankees used to be a rival. When Don Zimmerman is getting thrown upon his bucket because he charges Pedro Martinez, as much as NASCAR or as much as baseball goes, oh man, that's terrible. They're like, market the shit out of that. And that's when baseball was better. Whenever the bad boys in Detroit were beating the hell out of Michael Jordan and creating those personas, it made you a Michael Jordan fan. Like, that's when people were like, man, this guy gets treated like crap. I don't like Detroit. I like the Bulls. It just keeps on going, whatever it is. I mean, it was great to hate Tom Brady because they were the best. They did it their own way.
Mm-hmm.
NASCAR has this golden opportunity this year. If it does become this, Joe's just spamming the chat. He's not even sick. Let's go to bed, Joe. Go on iRacing. No, we miss you. Get well if you're actually sick. They just have this opportunity to capture this. And if it's going to be Joe Gibbs, I'm with you. As much as I wanted parity early, I honestly think we might see 9 drivers. I think that's probably the right over-under with what you said is 9 drivers this year. And I think, I mean, we can list them right now if you want. I think we got the 6 that we just said from Joe Gibbs and Hendrick.
Well, who's one? So let's see who's won this year. You got Byron, Larson, you have Bell, Hamlin. So, and then we have 5 winners right now, right?
And
Suarez. Yeah. So there's 5 winners. So I think Ty Gibbs gets a win. Martin Truex is going to get a win at some point.
6, 7.
You'd think another Hendrick driver. There's 8.
Yeah, I think
I think
Chase
Ross gets a
Elliott-
win
There's 9.
with Reddick in there
Joey
somewhere.
Logano is probably going to get a win.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
I'm sorry, Ryan Blaney, not Joey Logano. Ryan Blaney's probably going to get a win.
I think we just go back to what we said. I think NASCAR, there's definitely more winners than there has been in a long time these past 3 years.
But it's so top heavy.
But it is still, it's still going to be, it's, you know, and I guarantee next year, Hendrick and Gibbs and maybe another team take off again, take to a new level where it's going to leave the track houses. It's going to leave it. I'd even put to the point, it might even leave 2311 because, like I said, they're a second tier team unless they do a furniture row, which, you know, whatever that way. But you look at it that way, you know, what team is going to fall off here? And you look at, I don't know. You just, like I said, I think every year it's just going to keep going down. Like it went from 15 or 16. Last year was 12 or 13 or 14, whatever, 13, I think.
14. It was 14.
Yep. I think this year you go to that 9 or 10. I think it's going to continually to the point where we had it whatever years ago when it was always like that 8 to 9. You get a couple randos, but you have the same people doing it.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And I think that, you know, I hope that NASCAR markets it the right way because you can create a rivalry. You can artificially create rivalries. I mean, but it seems like more often than not, it's not going to be any Hendrick drivers creating it because they do the Patriot way. They have robotic voices outside of Kyle Larson when he's not at the track, and so. All right, well, that's going to do it for our main topic. So let's go ahead and start jumping into our games. We will first do our rolling off the grid. And before we get started, we have to show the standings where Travis took an absolute beating to Joe and I. He put us behind the woodshed and said, "You can call me Dad."
Oh,
that's
shit.
Mr. Dad. Yeah, you had 2 8-point burgers there. Joe actually had William Byron and said 7, so he could have made up a ton of ground and left me in the dust.
Oh, I probably got like Chase Briscoe and some of them like almost spot on.
You did. You missed 2 drivers by 1 spot. So that because we caught up with you last week.
Yeah.
And then you said bye. So we're gonna just do this for the sake of having fun. Because Joe's not with us.
Joe can pick on. Joe can put it in the comments.
Okay, Joe's picking his drivers. All right. So
here we go.
We'll have Joe pick in the comments. I have to look at that again. I think am I behind Joe or are we tied? I am behind Joe. So I will go last. So Travis, you will go first.
All right.
And let me share my screen. And this week, Travis's winning car from the Thursday Night iRacing Series is the middle.
Woo!
So, Travis, you will lead it off. Here we go. And you'll have to tell me what Joe says, okay? Because I can't see.
Okay.
Oh, God. Well.
Oh, God.
Here you go, champ.
We're at Texas. Give me 29th.
I was thinking 30 in my head, so that's good. All right, so Joe will be next. So there might be a little delay here, but we will.
Well, go ahead and spin his, and then go ahead and spin for yours, and then we'll see his in the comment.
Okay. He got Christopher Bell.
He got Christopher Bell. All right, go ahead and spin for yours.
So Joe in the comments put Christopher Bell, and then put what place you think he'll get. And whenever it pops up, Travis, just let me know.
Will do.
All right. So that's a very different. We go from Rick Ware to Joe Gibbs Racing. That's not very fair for Travis. Oh, who did I hurt?
Oh,
This will be easy. 32nd.
Ooh. Joe said 6th.
6 for C Bell. Okay.
Yep.
So now you.
Yep.
No, I'm gonna make an audible. Daniel Hemrick is in like every effing week. So for the sake of doing this, I'm going to spare you, and we are not doing Daniel Hemrick. Thank God. There we go. Let's get a decent driver on the board.
Oh. 9th.
9th? Did he disappear? Did he come off the thing? I think they're taking him. That's not supposed to do that. Oh, well. They're actually taking him off the board now. So for Joe, he will get Truex.
He's just going Joe Gibbs.
Oh, I'm hiding them. No wonder. Whoops.
All right, Joe. You got you got Truex.
He is getting nothing but Gibbs. I will go next.
Oh, he's really good there.
Second.
Oh,
Mathematically makes no sense, but I go with how I feel. So, all right, last one for Travis.
Joe said 8th, by the way.
Okay.
Truex.
Oh,
God.
I think this is the first time we've had this. I don't ever remember Kyle Busch being picked yet.
Oh, man. Like, part of me wants to say 7th, and part of me wants to say 12th.
Yeah. I wanted to pick him this week because he's traditionally really, really good. But you can just like throw all the RCR stats out the window, or like they just like have their own special.
12th.
All right, 12th. Joe's last one. Ooh, Ryan Reese. I did pick last week, and he did give me one of my 3 points. So
Hey.
I want to take a round of applause, self-promotion there. My last one. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
This is a tough track. I like Carson Hocevar, but Texas is a different animal. 18th. 18th for Carson.
I was going to add 23rd in my head.
So there you go. Did Joe speak on Mr. Priest?
24th.
24th? Yeah. I figured it wasn't going to be very kind. So, all right. Now we'll get into the Texas preview. So, just so everybody is aware, Texas actually used to be a really fun track, and they decided to redo it. They reconfigured it. Denny Hamlin would say this is one of Speedway Motorsports and Marcus Smith's really big fails, and he would be correct. There's been talks of just obliterating it, and because it can be revived no more. If it was a cat, it would be on its 8th. It's walking on 2 legs on its 8th life. Turn 1, as we saw last year, Travis, nobody has any idea what they're doing. They said it's like driving on ice. It is flat, and it is like super, super, super wide, and everybody drives the bottom.
Yep.
And then turn 4 is like kind of like your traditional Charlotte, Kansas turn 4. But last year, the unpredictableness of it made it interesting.
It was better than years past, I will say.
Absolutely.
It was better than years past. There was actually 2 grooves in 1 and 2, and there was actually a couple of grooves in 3 and 4.
And the best thing it has going for it is it's been followed by Richmond and Martinsville. So no matter what, it probably will look much better than it really is. It is like putting lipstick on a pig. So is there anything that, Texas, that you're looking at coming this week?
Yeah, just look at Hendrick's been really good there of late. You have 2311. That was pretty solid there last year. I thought Bubba even had a chance of winning when Larson wrecked. So I'm interested to see that. I'm going to say that we're probably going to see a new winner this week. I think we're going to get our 6th winner. It's just going to be something that we are going to sit here on Monday or Sunday night and go, wow, what an incredible race. Like that was some great racing, because we saw absolute BS the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I pray. I hope.
So I don't know. I've never, ever since they reconfigured, I've not been a fan of Texas.
Right.
They thought that the big wide turn 1 and 2 would promote people to run that wall like Auto Club or stuff like that, but not even close. There's not enough speed there,
and it's not banked or nothing. Like
I know.
Fontana is banked. Like it's not super banked, but it's like it's got some banking. It's almost like
they were trying to do it like an Auto Club or a Michigan and stuff like that, and it just not even close.
Fail.
Big fail.
So let's go ahead and look at our drivers again. Because I love you all, I take the time out to actually look at this week's paint scheme, so you guys know that as well when you know what to look for. So, Travis, let's lead it off with you. You gave me a surprise. Number one, I never in my life thought that there would be an ability to add Austin Cindric to 1.5 miles. Can you please just explain that?
He's due. He is due. I just wanted
For what? A colonoscopy?
I just need a top 10. I'm just stage racing. No, I think Cindric's someone that he's qualified well. He's qualified decently. And what my thought is like, who's due? And if who qualifies well outside the top 20, and there's not a whole lot of passing Texas. So I'm thinking, like, if he qualifies well, maybe he'll just stay up front.
I thought this was a pick purely to try to help me and Joe. And I still think that regardless of what you say.
Well, good. Good. You guys need all the help you can get.
So you went very chalk after that. You went with 2311 Joe Gibbs and Rick Hendrick. Yeah. Obviously using your driver, number 5, Kyle Larson, then Christopher Bell with the Ream scheme. Probably the worst scheme of all time on how to actually use the car for your sponsor. Then you went with Tyler Reddick. Pretty solid car. And I like the paint scheme for Bubba Wallace this week. But again, another poor use of space there. But
yeah, and like I said, one thing in picks and stuff, and I kind of kick myself in the rear, and I think that's where I haven't seen what's the point standings for this.
What do you mean
for this section? Did you update the?
Oh, that's a great point. Sorry about that. Thank you very much. We're close. You did get a 4th win though with Byron.
Okay,
so that helped you. But that helped you a lot. Otherwise, we all would have had 3 points.
Yeah, and I look at it this way, and I kind of kick myself. And to be honest with you, that's how Joe's kind of stayed with us. He's got Kyle Larson every week. I'm kicking myself. I'm like, I'm at some of these tracks. I don't think Larson's very good. Like, I don't think I'm going to do that. Then I'm sitting there going, well, crap. Like, I could have gotten extra points if I just picked him. So,
yeah,
myself a little bit. So Joe's played some good strategy there. I look at some of those other drivers. Like I said, Toyota's been decent there. I'm kicking myself. I probably should have picked Byron again, but it was between Byron and Reddick, and I think Reddick's due a little bit too. So
yeah,
I'm with him.
But I also think you're right. I think there's a possibility that Reddick can hit it, and then he ends up winning it. Mm-hmm. So let's next go to Joe. Joe is the chalkiest of chalk outside of Ty Gibbs. His outside of the top 20 might just go ahead and be Noah Gragson every year or every single week. So we don't have to worry about that. Ty Gibbs, I think Joe looks at what Ty Gibbs has done here recently and says that this is a track that he thinks he can have a really good run at. Outside of that, the chalky chalk up here when it comes to Willie B, when it comes to the number 11 Yahoo of Denny Hamlin, and then, of course, the most common paint scheme in all of NASCAR, which not used to seeing. That used to be commonplace, just to see the same paint scheme every single week. And that is Kyle Larson. So those are Joe's.
Joe's guaranteed 2 picks right there. Gregson and
it'll be a cold night in hell for him not to choose Kyle Larson, I promise. So I decided to go different a little bit more because you mentioned it. You said somebody could be a surprise, and 1.5 miles have traditionally been good for Trackhouse. Trackhouse has been horrible on short tracks, decent on super speedways. Usually one of their drivers screws up, but 1.5 miles they've been really, really solid. And last year Ross Chastain got second. Daniel Suarez had a top 10. I think we see the same thing this week. It was easy for me to pick Daniel Suarez because he's outside of that, even though he has a win. And I think with Ross Chastain, Ross just has one of those abilities, like you mentioned, to where you're like, haven't said anything about him in a few weeks, and then it's like, oh shit, he has a chance to win this.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where Trackhouse is. Don't really have that consistency very much, but towards the middle of the year, it seems like they start to run quite a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I end up going chalk, obviously with the same picks as Joe, Larson, Byron, and Hamlin. I think those are the 3 best drivers in the sport right now.
Hey, I got a question.
What's that?
Was Suarez the one outside top 20?
I thought he was.
He could be. I would assume.
Now you're going to make me doubt. If he isn't, I'm going to be ticked.
I think he should be. He hasn't ran that good besides a win.
He's not.
It's okay. We all get one bye. I haven't had Joe's had his
one bye, and it's Daniel Suarez. That's awful.
Hey, Joe's had one, you've had one, and I gotta get mine. So I'll get mine at some point.
All right.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, God, you can pick some good drivers, bud.
He's 17th.
Wait, who was Joe's? Oh, Gregson, never mind.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That freaking dude gets an auto outside the top 20 every week because of the points. Dude, it is rough outside the top 20.
Oh, dude. I was thinking Aaron Jones, and I'm like, wait, never mind. Or I was thinking like Nemechek, and I'm like, ugh.
Would you? Nemechek's not outside the top 20. That's what I was getting ready to tell you. He is in 19th.
Oh, that's what it was. Because I was going to pick Nemechek, and I saw him 19th. I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? It's like he hasn't been worth a damn.
I almost thought I'd been picking Jimmy Johnson over.
Eric Jones has one top 10, is in 20th.
Oh.
That's wild. So, well, Travis, do you have any parting words for us as we wrap up the show here?
Nope. Hopefully we see a decent race, and that's about it. I don't know, not a whole lot.
We have a really exciting wreck tomorrow for one of our shorts. So hopefully you guys like that. I posted an interview with Kenny Wallace and with Kyle Busch. The pretty much mentality that Kyle has is why I am a Kyle Busch fan. And if you watch that very short video, it is the Kyle Busch competitor that I absolutely love. So it's like 1 minute, 10 seconds long. I know you Zoomers have a really hard time focusing. It's not that long, I promise. And we got some good feedback on your boy, Kyle Larson. We made a short of him, of his wardrobe malfunction. It seems like people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we got things going. Tomorrow's iRacing is kind of iffy due to some
right now,
content.
Unfortunately, some basketball and stuff. So hopefully we can do some, or we'll make it up at some point. Maybe we'll do a late night race, or we'll do maybe a Friday night special of some sort, possibly. So we'll figure something out.
All right, and so that'll do it for us here. Thank you guys for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your week. For Travis Butt and Backward Pepsi, my name is Ryan Peters. This is Stuck in the Catch Fence. God bless.